to a point where man's or any animal or man's lives could have been sustained on the earth, the temperature would have had to have gotten up above freezing, and had to get up enough for green plants and stuff to grow, for the animals to eat plants and all this other stuff as part of the natural order of things according to evolution. Now, how did the earth warm up then if man wasn't here? Well, evidently the only way it could have warmed up is that it did it naturally. So there's a natural ongoing process of the earth warming up in the first place. Now, it may have only been a half a degree every 1,000 years or something like that, but at some point it got to the point where it was able to sustain life, both plant and animal life. So that throws a monkey wrench into the thought of man-made global warming. Then we have another area to look at, and that is this. We all know that the earth is made up of 3/5 of the earth, or maybe more, is made up of oceans and seas and so forth, lakes and things like that, some of which are fresh water, others are salt water. Now, if you go ask a meteorologist where the clouds come from, they'll tell you, well, when the earth gets warmed up, when the water gets warmed up enough, the water starts evaporating, it goes up into the atmosphere, it gets up there and gets cooled off, and then it turns in the clouds. And then after you get so many clouds and so much water formed in the clouds, where the clouds get too heavy or so forth like that, you have rain. The water comes back down, basically because the water is cooled off enough where it will drop back down to the earth. Now, you can also ask them this: well, what happens when you get a whole lot of clouds up in the sky and the sunlight can't get through for maybe 3, 4, 5 days? They'll tell you the earth will cool down. So now here's my point here. Now, like I say, I'm talking on common sense level here. With that being the case, and the earth being so made up of so much water, and people are talking about the fact global warming, how the water, how the lakes and the oceans and things are going to dry up. Think about this. With all this water evaporating, going up in the air, now this is assuming that global warming is actual reality. The earth, essentially, all these waters and things are going to get up in the sky. They're going to blot out the sun. All these clouds and things are going to blot out the sun. And when they blot out the sunlight, what's going to happen? Because remember now, global warming is because too much of the sun's ultraviolet rays are hitting the earth and warming it up. Where you got clouds that are going to get up there in the sky and blot the sun out. Well, if they blot the sun out so the rays can't get to the earth, what's going to happen? The earth is going to cool down. Well, if it's going to cool down, then that means that the earth is self-regulating, which basically boils back to the same thing. It had to be a divine design for that to occur, so that the earth would not actually burn up, but rather it would reach a certain point. A lot of the oceans and things would evaporate. The water would evaporate, go up in the sky, blot out the sun rays and things like that, and we might have days of where or maybe weeks or months where there may not be any sunlight being able to come through, and that would allow the earth to cool down. and then the rain falls back down to the earth and things. So you see, there's a cyclical cycle there that would not allow the earth to heat up beyond a certain point. So that's the next factor. Then we also have this about climate change. I notice that a lot of people are talking about climate change rather than global warming. Now let me explain to you what climate change is and why I think they're trying to pull a fast one on us. Climate change is when a climate that usually is a climate where it's been recorded to be below freezing, like the Antarctic and places like that, where you still have the icebergs and stuff that date all the way back to the ice age that never really melted and they just were there. People are talking about the fact, well, you can tell the earth is warming up because these icebergs and things are melting and so forth, so the earth is warming up. But there's a flip side to that. The flip side is if you go to places like Florida and so forth, where the temperatures usually are in the 80s and 90s and things, now you got situations, and even in California I believe, but I know it's happening in Florida, and there's probably other places around the world where climates that were usually warm are all of a sudden experiencing record cold. And so what that's telling me is that there's a shift in the climates of one area going to another area. So in other words, the area that used to be warm is getting colder, and the area that used to be cold is getting warmer. Now what that says is there's a shift, a climate shift, not global warming. So I want you to consider everything that I have just said here. But essentially I'm saying everything is by design of God. It's divine design, and it cannot, I repeat, cannot be changed. And the more you fight against it, the more you're going to suffer for it. We have lost I don't know how many millions of jobs because of legislation in this nation to try to combat something that man can't overcome in the first place. And that is something that God has said is going to occur. Now see, we could have been getting on with our lives, but yet and still, because we believed a lie propagated by a bunch of fanatics somewhere that are engaged in a religion, and that's what environmentalism is, and global warming is part of their religion, which basically defies God. And we have a lot of Christians that go out here and march with these people and talk and get up and talk about the fact we need to do this and we need to do that to protect our kids. You are running in fear because of a lie. And the thing is, what you need to do is get educated on what God has to say about it and turn away from this foolishness, because you are going to suffer for it. If you aren't already suffering, you will, or your kids will be suffering, because you are engaging in warfare against God. He's telling you what is what, but you don't know because you don't read the Bible, or your pastor hadn't told you the fact that what is going to happen to this earth, and that we need to be getting ourselves right with God. So I hope that you've gotten something out of this message, and it will be posted on YouTube, and it will be available on a video. If you're looking at this message now, you tell your friends and neighbors about the foolishness of going to war. And that's, make no mistake about it, that's what it is, going to war against God over something that God has already predestined to occur. So I hope you got something out of that message, and God bless you, and be encouraged in the Lord.